He took bodybuilding to a level that few ever dare to reach. Extreme conditioning, zero body fat, insane discipline. He trained twice a day, ate the same meals day in and day out. He was respected by everyone, admired on stage, and even more off of it. But behind that perfect physique, there was something no one could see. A draining routine, silent sacrifices, and choices that came with a heavy price. Andreas Munzer wasn't just trying to compete. He wanted to be the most shredded, the leanest, the most jaw-dropping athlete out there. And he became a symbol of glory and of danger. Today, his story is remembered as one of the most intense in bodybuilding history. And in this video, you'll find out why. Grab your pre-workout, because this is a story that needs to be told. Andreas Münzer was born in 1964 in Austria and grew up in a simple environment surrounded by rural life. His family ran a dairy farm, something pretty common for that region. From a young age, he learned the value of hard work. It wasn't a life of luxury, but it was full of discipline. And maybe that's where the foundation for his athletic future was laid. As a teen, Munzer started working in a tool manufacturing plant. Here's the wild part. The factory was 10 kilometers, about 6 miles, from his house. Since the bus only came every couple of hours, he had tons of time to kill. And what did he do with that time? He started lifting weights at a local gym, and he never looked back. It didn't take long for Arnold to become his biggest idol. Andreas wanted to follow in his footsteps, maybe even surpass his famous fellow Austrian. And that dream started shaping his journey in bodybuilding. But unfortunately, it also led him down some risky paths. In the 80s, Munzer made a bold move. He left Austria and headed to Germany in search of better opportunities. He found work in a gym and took that chance to push himself even harder. It was the perfect setup for growth, and his physique started to turn heads. By 1989, all that dedication started to pay off. Munzer won the heavyweight category at the IFBB World Amateur Championships. That one opened the door to the Pro League. That same year, he made his debut on bodybuilding's biggest stage, Mr. Olympia. He placed 13th, a huge accomplishment for a newcomer. In 1990, Andreas entered his first Arnold Classic and placed third. He competed in that contest for 5 straight years. Even though he never beat that third-place finish, his presence always stood out. His level of conditioning grabbed the attention of fans and judges alike. Still, despite his insane muscle definition, Munzer got his fair share of criticism. Some said his glutes and hamstrings were out of proportion with the rest of his body, and that might have cost him better placings. Trying to stand out in the sport, he started competing way more than most pros. Usually, bodybuilders go through a cycle of contest prep and then take time off, the so-called off-season, to recover and build more mass. But Andreas barely took breaks. He was always stage ready, always shredded. Now imagine the physical and mental toll of keeping your body at its limit 24/7. An ultra-restrictive diet, brutal training sessions, and barely any rest. For most people, that's just not sustainable. And that's where things get dangerous. To keep up that insane routine, he started relying on banned substances. According to reports, he was spending over $6,000 a month on steroids, diuretics, insulin, growth hormone, and supplements. That's a massive investment, but also a huge risk to his health. On a trip to Canada, he was even detained by police for trying to enter the country with steroids. And here's the scariest part. His body fat dropped to just 3%. Do you have any idea what that means? That number is so low, it's honestly terrifying. The human body needs a certain amount of fat just to function properly. But Andreas kept pushing, ignoring all the warning signs. Even when he was in serious stomach pain, he stuck to his routine like nothing was wrong. The drugs he was taking dulled a lot of the pain, but inside, something very serious was going on. Several tumors had developed in his stomach, and since he wasn't seeking medical help, things just kept getting worse. A week after placing 6th at the Arnold Classic, he started bleeding internally during his flight back home. He was rushed to the hospital, but his body was already shutting down. His kidneys and liver gave out. Andreas died at just 31 years old. The autopsy revealed some truly shocking stuff. Massive liver tumors, a heart twice the normal size, and over 30 whole halotestin pills still sitting in his stomach. All of it showing just how far he pushed his body in the pursuit of physical perfection. So here's the real question. Is it worth sacrificing your health for an aesthetic ideal? I'd love to hear what you think. Drop a comment below. Andreas Munzer's diet was one of the strictest in bodybuilding. To keep his body fat at rock-bottom levels, he stuck to clean, functional foods. Rice, chicken breast, potatoes, turkey, and lean fish were part of his daily grind. First thing in the morning, a big hit of egg whites. It was all about performance-focused eating. In the final 3 months before competition, his diet got even more extreme. He cut his intake down to just 2,000 calories a day. Sounds like a decent amount. Not when you weigh over 220 pounds, 100 plus kg, and train heavy twice a day. That's basically starvation mode. Imagine how hard your body has to work to maintain that much muscle with so little fuel. The goal was simple but risky. Get his body fat even lower to insane levels. And to help with that, on top of the strict diet, he used diuretics. These drugs flush out water from the body, making muscles look drier and more defined on stage. But when overused, they can be seriously dangerous. Ever heard of someone who pushed diuretics too far? Unlike most athletes, Munzer didn't do a real off-season. He was known for staying in near-competition shape all year round. That meant constantly tracking food. No cheat meals, no splurges, eating the same things in the same amounts every single day. How long do you think you could keep that up? Eating chicken and rice every day might sound simple, but doing it for years with no breaks takes next-level discipline, and it comes at a cost. Our bodies need variety and balance, but Munzer almost never gave himself that break. Even when he wasn't prepping for a contest, he ate like he could be stepping on stage at any moment. All that rigidity came with consequences. A lack of variety in your diet can seriously affect your liver, kidneys, and other organs. Plus, with so few calories and such an intense training routine, his body was constantly under stress. So the question is, how far is it really worth going to maintain an extreme physique 365 days a year? Early in his career, Andreas Munzer noticed something that could hurt his stage performance. His legs just weren't on par with the rest of his body. He admitted it himself. He didn't like training legs. It was the hardest, most exhausting, and painful part of bodybuilding for him. On top of that, he believed his genetics didn't help much when it came to developing his lower body. But instead of just accepting that weakness, he chose to face it head-on. After all, in bodybuilding, symmetry is everything. For a long time, his leg day was simple. Squats, leg extensions, and leg curls twice a week. Each move had 5 sets with reps ranging from 8 to 12. But as he gained more experience, Andreas realized that wasn't enough. The volume was solid, but not elite. And the intensity needed to go up if he really wanted to go toe-to-toe with the best in the world. He knew that if he wanted legs to match his chest and back, he'd have to switch things up. That's when his mindset changed. Munzer started putting full focus on legs, turning that muscle group into a top priority. He added new exercises like hack squats and lunges, which hit the quads in different ways. He also split his leg training into 2 parts: front, quads, and back, hamstrings and glutes. On top of that, he began using advanced techniques like negative reps, basically slowing down the lowering phase of the movement after muscle failure to push intensity even further. His quad workout included 4 sets of squats, 4 sets of leg extensions, 4 sets of hack squats, and 4 sets of lunges, all in the 8 to 12 rep range. For hamstrings and glutes, the plan included lying leg curls, standing curls, and seated curls, again for sets each with negatives at the end. It was brutal, intense, technical, and incredibly effective. The results spoke for themselves. His legs became some of the most shredded and detailed the sport has ever seen. And don't think that dedication stopped at leg day. Andreas's upper body training was just as complete and dialed in. For biceps, he'd do alternating curls, barbell curls, easy bar preacher curls, dumbbell preacher curls, and incline concentration curls. For triceps, he hit pushdowns, overhead dumbbell extensions, and reverse grip pushdowns. He trained with surgical precision, paying attention to every rep, every contraction, leaving zero room for sloppy form. His training split followed the classic pro model, but cranked up the intensity. He trained 6 days a week, twice a day. Sunday was his only rest day. Mondays and Thursdays were chest, shoulders, and calves. Tuesdays and Fridays were back, biceps, and abs. Wednesdays and Saturdays were for triceps and legs. That split let him hit each muscle group frequently, without too much downtime between sessions. Can you imagine keeping up that pace for years? No long breaks, no lazy Mondays, no random day off in the middle of the week. That kind of routine takes way more than just physical strength. It takes a focused mind and a crystal clear goal. When we talk about Andreas Munzer, there's one thing that has to be mentioned: his legendary muscle definition. He was known for stepping on stage with a ridiculously dry, grainy, separated look, every fiber popping, every muscle sharply outlined. And that didn't come from just diet and training. It came from a level of discipline that bordered on obsession. Andreas took the idea of stage ready to a whole new level, and it showed. His measurements were nothing short of jaw-dropping. In his final competition, Munzer reached a body fat level so low it even stunned the experts. His body fat percentage was just 3%. Yep, 3%. For context, most elite athletes step on stage with something between 5% and 7%. Below that, your body goes into survival mode because essential fat, the kind that protects your organs and regulates key functions, starts disappearing. Even so, Andreas managed to maintain that level without looking weak. In fact, he looked insanely shredded. Despite not being tall, he was only 5 feet 7 inches, 1.70 meters. Munzer packed on so much dense, full, round muscle that he looked way bigger than he actually was. On stage, he weighed around 238 pounds, 108 kilograms. For someone his height, that's beyond impressive. And even more so when you realize he carried all that weight with almost no fat. It was like every inch of his body was carved, a real-life statue. His measurements were just as eye-catching. His arms were a massive 21 inches, 53 centimeters, around, something that's rare even among today's open-class monsters. His chest measured about 58 inches, 147 centimeters, giving his upper body an insane level of thickness. Combine that with a super tight waist, and his silhouette on stage was pure power and aesthetics. That kind of proportion is what every bodybuilder chases, but very few actually achieve. A lot of people think these numbers are just about vanity, but in bodybuilding, they matter a lot. Judges look at symmetry, proportion, size, and definition. And Andreas nailed every one of those categories. But let's not forget, those measurements didn't come without sacrifice. His physique was the result of years of relentless hard work, self-denial, and sadly, serious health risks. Today, many athletes still try to reach that same level, but very few can get close to that kind of definition without risking their health. So here's the question again. Is it better to aim for a functional, balanced body or chase the ultimate aesthetic, knowing the price could be high? Andreas Munzer's career on the bodybuilding stage was all about dedication and consistency. From his amateur beginnings in the mid-'80s to his final days, he kept showing up at the biggest contests in the world. He wasn't just a guy who trained hard and ate right. He lived to compete. And you could see that passion in every step of his journey on stage. In 1986, he placed 6th in the Amateur European Championship middleweight division. The very next year, he stepped on stage at the IFBB World Championships in the light heavyweight category and took third place, a result he would repeat again in 1988. These strong performances opened doors and gave Andreas the confidence to enter the pro circuit. And in 1989, he finally made his debut on the most prestigious stage in the world, Mr. Olympia, where he finished 13th. That same year, though, he achieved one of the biggest wins of his career, taking first place in the heavyweight division at the IFBB World Games, a victory that cemented his name on the international scene. From that point on, Munzer started competing more frequently. In 1990, he earned a solid third place at both the Arnold Classic and the Grand Prix Germany, and placed 9th at the Mr. Olympia, one of his best finishes at the event. Even with the ups and downs, Andreas kept an impressive level of consistency. In 1991, he returned to the Arnold Classic, 9th, placed 3rd at the Ironman Pro Invitational, 4th at the Pittsburgh Pro Invitational, but didn't place at that year's Mr. Olympia. For most people, that would be a sign to take a break, regroup, maybe rethink their game plan. But not Andreas. He kept going, no off-season, always trying to improve and come back stronger at every show. 1993 was a packed year. 7th at the Arnold Classic, 2nd and 4th at 2 different Grand Prix Germany events, runner-up at Night of Champions, and once again, 9th at the Mr. Olympia. Even if he wasn't winning the biggest titles, Andreas was always up there with the best. He was known for his insanely shredded physique and his unwavering presence on stage. He might not have been the top champion, but he was deeply respected, even by his competitors. The following years kept the same intensity. In 1994, he competed in the Arnold Classic, 5th, the Grand Prix France, 8th, the Grand Prix Germany, 5th, and again took 9th at Mr. Olympia. In 1995, he came in 4th at the Arnold Classic, and in 1996, he stepped on stage for the last 2 times, 6th at the Arnold Classic and 7th at the San Jose Pro Invitational. A non-stop grind that showed just how much he gave himself to the sport. The story of Andreas Munzer is both inspiring and heartbreaking. He showed the world what it means to push the human body to the absolute limit, in definition, in discipline, and in drive. But he also reminded us that behind every jaw-dropping physique, there's a human being with pain, sacrifices, and tough choices. Now I want to hear from you. What hit you the hardest in his journey? The extreme effort, the insane stats, or the consequences of a life with no breaks? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everything you write and love connecting with others who are just as passionate about the bodybuilding world as I am. And if this video helped you learn more about one of the most unforgettable athletes in the sport's history, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell, because every week there's a new video, always packed with powerful stories, reflections, and behind-the-scenes insights from beyond the stage. And if you made it this far, I know you'll love the video linked right here in the card and in the description below.